just trying to convince you right now about the Israel-Palestinian conflict and how Israel is really not the aggressor in this case. There's a lot of recent attacks going on between Gaza and Israel in the past few weeks, which I'm sure most of you saw. Right now they're in a standstill. But one of the main things is that Israel is constantly being blamed for occupying Arab land. So one of the main problems, like I've seen it around campus, and there's a lot of people that just have a negative view of Israel, mainly because they just don't know the facts, and they just hear what's said on the news, and they really don't even know like what is really going on over there. The main issues being that Israel's occupying Palestinian land, using excessive force against Palestinians, and that Israel is racist against Arabs, none of which are true. In terms of occupation, Jews have had a constant, they've been in Israel for over 3,000 years, long before the Islam religion was even around. And in addition to that, in the 1800s, the Jews legally purchased land known as Palestine. And that was just a province of the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't actually a legitimate country or anything like that. So it's not really that we're occupying their land. We did purchase it. And I'm just saying we because I am Jewish. So, but the other thing is that Israel has made plenty of offers to try and negotiate peace. Like in 1979, Egypt agreed to the peace that Israel offered to them, and in return, Israel returned the Sinai Peninsula. Got a picture here showing that little yellow country is Israel, while all the rest of those countries are all Arab states. And that's funny because everybody's saying that Israel is occupying Arab land. It doesn't really look that way to me. In terms of the excessive force, Israel is constantly facing threats on all sides, from anywhere from Iran to Lebanon, even to the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Both Hamas from Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon have been constantly firing rockets at Israel for years. And they're funded by Iran, who has called for Israel's destruction. So it's really not so much that we're doing it with excessive force. They're just trying to protect their people. There's this one city right outside of Gaza Strip called Sderot, and I actually got to go visit there. That is the most bombed city in the state of Israel. And here's a couple of pictures. I went to a police station in Sderot, and these are just a few of the missiles that they had on display. They say they've got plenty more in the back, but it's just an indication of how often they've got missiles coming in from Gaza landing in this one city. And it's a shame because people have 15 seconds to reach a bunker. And if you don't reach one in those few seconds, this could be your last few seconds. That caterpillar is actually a bunker at a playground. They're located all over the city. Every playground has one of them. And if you go inside, this other picture here on the bottom left, that yellow or orange line that you see on the left side of the picture, that's just inside of the bunker, and you have to get past that line in order to be effectively safe within the bunker. Also in this city, with the sirens, many parents are forced to choose which child to save sometimes. So it's not something easy for Israel to sit with. In terms of debunking racism, there's over 1 million Arab Muslims in Israel alone, which makes up for 20% of the population. And they all have the same rights. They can even vote. And they've had representatives in the Knesset, which is their version of our legislative branch. And they've been represented in the Knesset since the first elections. The residents in Gaza and the West Bank are not residents of Israel. They are completely different states. That's an issue of nationality, not religion at all. So, in essence, Israel's tried to offer peace. They've pulled out of Gaza before, only to be met with violence. And as you saw with the recent attacks, Gaza sent out some missiles. One of the first ones to land outside of Jerusalem since like the 1970s, and another one that hit right outside of Tel Aviv for the first time since like 1990. So they're just trying to protect themselves at this point. And we've tried to agree to peace, but there's really no Palestinian leadership that will agree to it at this point. And Israel's a democracy, so I'm not trying to convince you guys to take action or anything, just that Israel's not really the bad guy here. So, thank you.
Nice work.